Hey, welcome to the 149th episode of Just Shoot It, a podcast about filmmaking, screenwriting, and directing. This episode is brought to you by patrons T. Lamb and Steve Perong. I'm Oren Kaplan.
And I'm Matt Enlow. Today we're catching up. I'm back from Russia. Oren's got a bunch of crazy jobs to deal with. It's going to be a good one. We do one listener question. I promise we'll get to more eventually. But we just had so much to talk about that we figured why not catch up for a little bit.
And I think that question is something so many directors and filmmakers and any creatives deal with a lot, which is when you're offered a job, get really pumped about that job, and then that job ends up going to someone else, and how to deal with that.
And how to maintain relationships with the production company and your friends, and how to not take things personally. It's a pretty deep one, so we spend a good amount of time on it.
But before we get into the episode, we want to remind people that we have a Patreon page. Our Patreon is patreon.com/justshootitpod. Patreon is a way where you can give a couple bucks a month to help support the podcast, help us pay our editor, and help us put more live events on.
And just grow the podcast in general. It's going really well, which is nice. We're almost to our first major milestone of breaking even on the show.
We really do appreciate it. And to our patrons, we are coming up with more things to do with you all. So thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone. Let's get on with the show. So, Oren, it's been a long time. Up is down, left is right. What have you been working on lately?
Well, I just recorded an episode with Carlin a few days ago, so
yeah,
we chatted a little bit about what was going on in our lives, but I am preparing for this 4-day shoot I was just telling you about for California tourism, and it's going to be really fun, but we are shooting a lot of locations per day. We're working with 2 non-actors, and they want it to be really funny.
But performers. They're still comics, right? They're still...
Well, one of them is definitely a performer, a comedian, and has been on camera a lot. The other one has been on camera, but she is like a very successful... She has like millions of followers on Instagram.
Oh, I see.
So all stills. She's done a couple videos where people have kind of like tried to figure out, like kind of follow her and figure out how she does what she does. But they're really kind of montagey videos.
Like documentary style, sort of. Yeah. Lifestyle style.
There isn't a lot of her like talking to camera, being like, hey, we're here at the, the Griffith Observatory. Check this out.
Here, I'll put a button on this joke, and then,
Right.
Yeah, interesting.
So I'm trying to figure out like what kind of scenarios I can set up at each location so that funny stuff happens.
Yeah, I would say my main piece of advice in that paradigm is like giving the, for lack of a better term, influencer permission to not be funny.
Right.
Right.
Like she'll be the straight man.
Yeah, she's the straight man, and the other person is the one-liner person. Because I think that oftentimes when people are around people who are really fast and really funny, they want to play along. They want to kind of try and keep up. And trying to be funny when that's not what you're best at, or even what the scenario really requires, is a hard thing to get over, So giving her an objective of like something to play opposite that, if he's quippy, then she's over it, or she's distracted by something and doesn't want to have anything to do with him, or is really excited about just seeing the sights, or whatever that objective is that makes sense for the piece. I think is if you can find the perfect thing for her to play, then she's not distracted by like trying to tag jokes or whatever, because that just gets sloppy and
right. Yeah,
bad. For
sure, I don't want to try to make her. I don't want to say to either of them like be funny. It's like probably the worst direction you can give. But yes, I do.
But people have told them like, oh, you'll just improvise. It'll just be really funny and off the cuff. Don't worry about it. And so there's already this implicit directive of
being funny.
Be funny. Yeah.
Which is like, that's like the agency style of how you get people to be funny, is you like ask them to do funny stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that, so I guess one idea is that like her photos are perfect and his captions are hilarious, So like they're both taking photos of the same place, and hers just like look amazing. And they're kind of like insightful and inspired, and his are just like kind of not very good photos, but the captions are just funny. Hilarious. And then saying like if they can, basically this journey is about them helping each other, right? Like
that's fun. Yeah.
And just kind of play it out for real.
Right? Yeah, that's fun.
But my other angle, which I kind of was very inspired by Conan O'Brien's travel log.
Sure.
Have you seen it?
I've watched the first episode, I think. Does he goes to a different place each time, right?
He's done like 6 countries, but then
Yeah.
he'll also just like, he has like a guy that he works with, an associate producer that is like a real straight, matter of fact guy. And he like went with him to Intelligentsia to talk about coffee. And
Gotcha.
it's just, he's so funny, Conan, and that he can just be in any situation and just say funny things. And everyone else is just playing it really straight, really serious.
You know, a classic straight man sort of situation.
Right. Where we're not making fun of, but we are just like, like we have the funny person is kind of a little self-deprecating and like can't figure out how things work and is pointing out how funny that is.
Yeah. Or just can't turn off, you know?
Right. So that was one idea, is just kind of that. The other pitch I had is that we almost play it like a nature video. Like the comedian has kind of like the Stephen Colbert type of real, like straight, serious, but you know, kind of attitude, but is saying very funny things. Like I thought, what if he is like embedded with like a real Instagram photographer, and it's almost like a nature video. Like we watch her as she sets up her, you know, camera, and he's kind of narrating everywhere we go.
I mean, that could at least be a bit, like a runner, you know, that you can fall back on,
or even like a cold open. Right, we see her setting up, and we see he's like she puts her iPhone in on a selfie stick or whatever, and then she's like, Can you stop talking about me?
Everybody does this. You're being weird. Yeah. Maybe you're being weird is like a nice backup plan. Like having that, like a riff on that in your because I think also like it's easy. The thing you don't want to do is like make the influencer the butt of the joke, because like an influencer is just the best at a thing that literally everybody does. Like everyone takes selfies, right? Everybody has an online persona. They're just better at it than we are.
Yeah. But I'll show you her stuff after we stop recording. It's like, I mean, it's very good photography.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And it's actually, she doesn't really do selfies a lot. It's like she's always traveling with someone. So if she's in a picture, they'll be taking it. But she also takes pictures of like locations and items and her hands holding
more
things.
Like lifestyle-y sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, trying to crack that nut a little bit.
Yeah, get to the root of what makes them appealing to their audiences, and then see if there's a way to.
Yeah, the other difficult part is obviously, I think any director would agree. Like if you have these real people and you're trying to create content around them, it's very helpful if those actual people give input.
Yeah.
But they're in a different country on a totally different time zone, which you know a lot about. But they also are like, there's layers of producers and managers and agents between me and them. So like, it makes me not want to pitch something really silly. Like one of my pitches is like, her model dropped out last minute on her trip to California. Now she got this guy to sub in, and he's like this horrible model. Right.
Yeah. The question of like, why are they together is always tricky. Yeah.
But I don't want to pitch like silly things like that through 7 people, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get like a direct line of contact with him. I talked to the comedian once, but he's like, just go through my manager.
Do you have a writer at all, or are you basically writing it?
I'm basically writing it. The agency wrote some like gags, but they're mostly like she's taking a selfie and he is taking a selfie of himself with her taking a selfie of herself. That's kind of the same joke at each location. So I'm trying to just one up. I feel like selfie humor is like not. It's a little old.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite old. Yeah.
Like everyone takes selfies. It's not a joke. I take selfies. We all do.
Yeah, we all take selfies. Yeah. I'm just thinking back. I did these Nicole Richie jobs.
It did. I was watching Nicole in Paris or whatever. Remember The Simple Life? Paris Hilton. Nicole Richie had a show.
Yeah. This is afterwards. Nicole had a show called not Suddenly Nicole or Naturally Nicole, something like that. Anyway. Yeah, it was a similar sort of situation where I wrote the outlines and they were not very good. I was annoyed because I was hired to direct, but not write. And they were like, don't worry, we've got a writer. And he was very funny, but like, you know, basically was just there on set and didn't really have the bandwidth or I don't know what his deal was like or whatever. But basically like it was a situation where I was like, if I don't write something, then we won't know where to go to shoot anything, basically.
Right. You need to have, even if stuff is going to happen on its own, you need to have a plan.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you risk having nothing.
Oh, we're going to the pie shop. Okay, like let's talk about pie or whatever. But my point is though, like the writer that we had on the day was friends with Nicole. And so worst case scenario, I could turn to him and be like, hey man, we need an out for the end of this scene. Can you write something to feed to her?
Right.
Because you're trying to like, just build a scene and to just have a separate brain thinking about that stuff, especially when it's someone that they trust, that's valuable, I guess is what I'm saying. Otherwise, I think you can get your talent to get really stressed out and not know.
Right.
They're like, well, what am I supposed to say here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're like, I don't know, just say you're going to the pier now, or whatever. And then they're just mad at you,
And was she talking to camera?
We did talking heads, confessional style talking heads to kind of bridge things and then into scene work, basically. So I think we did the talking heads at the end of each scene.
And is that, so when you did Ellen, you did a lot of like OTFs, right? On the fly interviews.
Yeah, sure.
But that's like not a confessional. That's like, we're here at the location. Like, just give me a quick interview.
Yeah, exactly. Tell me what you're feeling right now in this moment. Like you just, hang glided or whatever. Did you think that you could hang glide?
Right. Candidly, Nicole.
Candidly, Nicole. That's it.
The show. Because have you ever been hired for a job where there's been an established like history of advertising or something, or writing or whatever it is, doesn't have to be commercial, where they're like, we've never really done a comedic version before. We've done like kind of drama, serious lifestyle, but we're bringing you in because we were doing a comedy thing.
Now we want it to be funny. Yeah, totally.
It's a lot of pressure, actually.
It is a lot of pressure.
Because you're working in a paradigm that's not funny, naturally.
Yeah, it's successful, but it wasn't built to be funny. And so like there's not necessarily a comedic premise baked in. And I think, you hate improv more than anyone I know.
I hate
you hate the edict of like, we'll figure it out on set, which is right. Like not having a structure, not having a plan is a good way to fail, basically.
Yeah.
And like I bet like Ben Schwartz or somebody like that, like just incredible improvisers can make it work, but you're not starting from a place of confidence. Like I want to be able to build off of something. And so I think that when I talk about improv, I'm always like, I want to plus things, but we have the bones there already. So if nothing funny comes out of that person's mouth, or if I'm running behind or whatever, it's still going to be totally great and fine. That's different than, hey, we're going to spend 4 days traveling around, which is tiring and stressful, and you're never scouting anything. Be funny over and over and over again.
Right.
Like that's a bad
Well, the main
situation.
tool of a director is preparation, right? Yeah. And if you were making it up on set, then they've taken away like your main tool.
Yeah, then you're just riffing, and maybe you get lucky, or maybe you don't. Yeah.
Well, so because I watched all their old videos, and they're beautiful. They're like these amazing shots, beautiful people, like walking you through these towns and locations, and great music, and just really incredible stuff. And I am like, okay, you see how beautiful their old stuff is, but it's not comedic at all. And just kind of letting them know that if we want to really lean into the comedy and the personalities, we're probably going to lose some of this like beautiful montage stuff.
I think also there's a big difference between funny, like laugh out loud funny, and entertaining. And in those cases, I think you can count on charismatic people to be enjoyable to watch. And that is a wholly different game than a laugh a second. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like set up punchline. You have to write. You have to. But like be charming and like have a nice time, like burning your mouth, eating clam chowder. I'll smile while I'm watching somebody do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or whatever the maybe less sadistic version of that joke is.
Well, you love
you know what I mean?
Feed Phil, right?
Somebody Feed Phil. Yeah, sure.
Somebody Feed Phil, which is not, I watched a little bit of it. It's not like that funny.
It's not that funny, no.
But it's genuine, kind of.
Yeah, he's just like, I like this.
Right. He's a funny guy walking around to different places in the world.
Yeah, he's got a couple good jokes an episode, but it is not funny at all. But that's a perfect example of like, oh, that's just entertaining. And I think if you can make sure that they understand the difference and that you can deliver entertaining with some laughs, that'll go a long way. And frankly, is what you want it to be. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't want it to be a Judd Apatow movie in San Francisco and LA, in front of landmarks.
Right. But I guess even like if you think of a Conan O'Brien or someone that's really funny, part of the idea of most campaigns today when they want comedy is because they want people to like think it's funny and share it, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And so it's hard to get people to share something that's like mildly entertaining, right?
Well, I didn't say mildly entertaining.
Okay. Well, but in 30 seconds or 60 seconds, it's hard to
Sure.
feed fill does not work in a 1 minute video.
Yeah.
Somebody feed fill. Anyway, well, so very long answer to what I'm working on lately. I apologize to our friends that think I dominate this part of the conversation.
I think you've brought it up every time since I told you.
Well, because I'm seeing how true it was, and I feel guilty.
Don't worry about it.
Well, Matt, what's going on with you? You're back from Russia.
I'm back from Russia.
I'm assuming you have to assassinate someone before you can move on with your life.
Only when I get a phone call and like a trigger word is set into the other line. You know, I'm like a sleeper cell right now.
Listeners, please send us potential trigger words, and I'll try them out on Matt.
Just like, yeah, I'm back. We got back Thursday. This is Sunday morning, Super Bowl Sunday, and my sleep schedule is all out of whack. I wake up at like 3 or 4 every morning, basically, and fall asleep at 7 or 8. So I've been writing, which is nice. You know, you know, getting into it, right? Which is really good. But yeah, it was.
Are you working on your feature?
Yeah. So that's coming along slowly but surely, which is nice. But yeah, like Russia was crazy. It was great. You know, there are things that are very different, and there are things that are totally the same. What's funny, a weird detail, is that I hadn't thought about it, but like Chapman and Fisher dollies, you can't buy.
Right.
You can only lease them. And the only way that you get to lease either of those dollies is by like coming to the US and like taking a certification course so that, you know, when it needs to be serviced or whatever, you know exactly how to do it. And I assume that's because they want to maintain a certain level of quality, blah, blah, blah.
Right, and safety.
And safety and all that stuff. Yeah, totally. But so as a result, I'll post a photo of the dolly that we used. It was like straight out of Pacific Rim. You know, it had like this crazy industrial design. It's kind of like a little octopus looking thing. So that was very strange. You know, shooting with cats is weird. It's like highly technical. Almost everything is a split screen.
How was that super slow-mo shot you did?
One whole spot is basically super slow-mo.
One shot?
No, one spot. So like over and over and over again, we did a ton of Phantom.
Right, but how many shots are in that one spot?
Maybe 12, I'd say.
Oh, but they're all super slow-mo.
Basically, I don't think, basically if I was shooting a cat, it was minimum of 50 frames a second. Like, I don't think I ever shot the cat real time. Because it just kind of like slow-mo sort of smooths out the kinks of a cat, kind of like
the cats
around.
Are so bumpy.
Well, they move very quickly, you know what I mean? So another interesting thing is they shoot 25 frames. So
like European style.
Exactly. Wow. Yeah. Which was nice, actually. So slow-mo. So
you're like, guys, 1 frame per second, whatever you guys want. I don't need it for my reel.
Yeah, exactly. And we also shot very long days.
Oh, I saw you posted like 19-hour days.
I shot a 19-hour day.
What is that? They just like, is it like World War II style where when one crew member dies, they just replace them with another person?
No, well, you know what was funny is that like the DP and I were like, are we going to stop? Like, what do we do?
Well, did you have a schedule and a shot list and an AD and all that stuff?
Yeah, of course. But, you know, shooting with cats and all that stuff, and it just, you know.
So was the AD not hurrying you up? Not saying, like, you got 20 minutes
they
to finish this shot?
Yes, they were mad at me for being behind, but not, like, in the U.S., you hit hour 19 on a commercial shoot. That is golden time. So that means that every single crew member, and it was a big crew, is making their day rate every hour, right? And so
you could easily be spending 10 times as much on crew on hour, like 20-something hours.
So the point is, like, it's built that way so that you just have to stop,
right? Because
it would be dumb to keep shooting. I do not know what the labor practices are there, but no one seemed especially bent out of shape about it. And our first AC, who was great and was also DP, was like, yeah, 24 hours. I shoot that all the time.
No. Come on.
And I swear to God, I asked my driver, who like had been driving me basically every day for 2 weeks, who's like a real sweet guy. I was like, is this crazy? What? Like, I've never, ever shot this long. And he was like, yeah, my record is 2 days, 10 hours.
So like 58 hours.
Yeah.
With do people sleep? Are people just sleeping on set?
I couldn't. The language barrier was a challenge.
Yeah.
I knew my department heads, and they all spoke better English than I speak Russian.
Okay.
But there's still like different levels of how well they speak Russian. So there were many, many people who I had no idea if they were a PA, if they were
the producer.
I had no idea. I knew my producers, I knew my department heads, and then there's like 30 white guys named Igor.
Did Vlad stop by?
Yeah.
Putin, I mean?
Yeah. No, yeah.
That Vlad. I imagine everyone's name there is Vlad.
Yeah. So it was hard to know, basically. And also, shooting with cats, they're easily distracted. So, we would make the whole crew go elsewhere, basically, because any single noise in this giant warehouse spooks the cat, and they look away or whatever, and then all of a sudden my shot's ruined. The set was awesome. The set was totally awesome. But also, I was like, is there like an FSO, like a fire safety officer here? And they were like, what are you talking about? And we literally had...
Fire what officer? Yeah, there's no Russian word for safety.
They were like, no, just be safe. And like, we had probably 100 candles going.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was cool. It looks good. And then also we had a fireplace.
Due to the power outage.
yeah, exactly. They charged up all their batteries. They're prepared for it.
I was actually fantasizing the other day about the days I used to shoot things by myself in incredibly unsafe ways, like on top of cars and running around. And
because you get awesome shots. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was
there was a little bit of that to it.
Yeah, let's do that.
We had a fireplace in a warehouse.
Right.
And literally a guy just sat in the back
Putting
and
logs on.
turned he turned on propane, and then he had a little flamethrower that he lit the flame, and then when we cut, he would turn it off, and then he was like, hey, you can't shoot for longer than a minute and a half, presumably because it would, I guess, burn the place down. I don't know.
All the walls are made of paper. Yeah, that's crazy. You do see, I don't know how much time you've spent on YouTube watching like random Russian videos, but there's like people jumping, like doing parkour on like, Air Force jets. It's like, or just driving a car and kicking out the front windshield and jumping out of it on the freeway. Like the most insane safe stuff ever. And you're like, I wish I could do that.
Well, so Moscow, for the most part, is super, not for the most part, in basically every way, except for like, there are little alleyways where like you kind of go into the back entrance to a production company or something like that. Those are really serpentine and kind of crazy, and they're all one way and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's like super metropolitan. They have big long parkways and boulevards and stuff. But one night, me and my wife and the DP were walking home from dinner, and like it's like freezing, right?
Right.
We're having a nice time, and it's a beautiful parkway, and we just hear someone shouting, and we turn around, and two horses are just galloping like full speed down the parkway, and that like two ladies are riding them, and we like get out of the way, and they just like go straight past us, and then we kind of catch up to them because they've stopped and all that, and they are just trading swigs of vodka.
Wait, they stopped like at a red light?
Basically, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's crazy.
That was crazy. That was the craziest thing. But otherwise, it was just like walking around Beverly Hills, but you just didn't understand what people were saying.
But it wasn't as cold as the Midwest, right? Polar vortex.
No. The vortex is much more serious. Yeah. Yeah, and we also acclimated, like you wear long johns and all that stuff. Right. And like it wasn't...
Listeners, Matt has a giant beard right now.
I do have a giant beard, which I thought would be the thing in Russia. And actually, no, it's a kind of a bad idea. Like multiple times I would come home and realize there was ice in my beard.
Better than lice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, cool. I'm jealous that you have all this free, uninterrupted time to write now.
Yeah, me
based
too.
Based on your time zone issues.
Yeah, I'm stoked on that. I also don't have anything lined up until maybe early March is kind of the closest job. So we'll see how long that lasts.
Do you have a deadline for your script?
No, but I've kind of earmarked February to kind of just plow through as much of it as I can, basically.
Cool. I'm trying to pull kind of like a Matt Enlow move recently in 2019, which is just like meeting up with people.
Oh, sure. Yeah, good.
And hanging out. And
how's that going?
Reacquainting. It's going really well. Like tonight. So one of the hard things when you have like kids and a family and a wife and all that stuff of like trying to go out for drinks with like a person you met on set or something, is it just feels weird, I think, to your significant other that, you're leaving them at home with the kid while you're out getting drinks.
Right.
But so a lot of these other people also have kids and husbands or wives or whatever. And so
you're pulling the double date move?
yeah, so I have a couple double dates lined up. Tonight we're having dinner, like my wife and my kids with our friend and also podcast listener, Brian. And his
Brian?
wife and his kids. And
that's a good move.
Yeah, because I just felt like I was socializing with like my kind of closest group of friends, but I wasn't like really going outside of that because I, don't want to be like an absentee husband / father.
You can also do the midday coffee.
Right. So I have a couple of those lined up too. I'm just trying to be more
just out there.
Yeah, because I don't know, I've shot like a bunch of commercials in the last few months and I haven't even posted them on Facebook, and I feel like I haven't really told anyone like what's going on with me.
Yeah.
Aside from this podcast.
Yeah.
So I feel like and I'm sure our listeners would appreciate this, and something that I've learned a lot from you is just be talking to people all the time about how you're a director,
That's a funny perspective to have about me. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't...
Well, we had a whole episode about what it means to get drinks.
Sure, that's true. But it's not like I do that all the time.
Well, you have...
No. Yeah, okay. Maybe more. I try to do maybe like once or twice a week if I can. Yeah.
Right. And you have...
But I will go through spells where it'll be months where I don't do that,
Right. But you also, because you went to USC, have this like kind of built-in like event funnel, right? Of things going on.
However, I'm going to one... ironically, next week, I want to say, but that will be in total 2 or 3 USC events I've attended since I graduated.
Oh, really?
Because it's also, frankly, a little bit of a different world, It's a lot more people who have jobs or are looking for jobs, or that's not totally accurate. It's been more than that, but it's not like I'm doing that many of them. And frankly, like, it's just as easy to find some other organization that you would like to be a part of. Like we used to... Did you ever go to the like tube filter events?
Oh, yeah. Back in the day.
Like those used to be...
Drew Pierce, that guy, right?
Drew Baldwin.
Yeah.
But like those used to be like... I would go to those every month, basically. And
Tube Filter is like a periodic... It's basically like the digital...
Variety, basically.
Yeah, version of Variety.
But you could go to Variety screenings, or you could... there's all sorts of news. You could go to the one at the Hammer Museum. You know what I'm talking about?
Flux.
Yeah, Flux screenings.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of stuff.
For our listeners, by the way, if you're like new to LA and you want to meet other interesting filmmakers and see really interesting ways people are making like short film stuff...
yeah, those Flux screenings are great.
Yeah.
I would go to them more often, but they're on the west side, so it's like kind of a pain to get out there. But that's just one of probably 100 different organizations that you could be a part of that could help you meet people, basically.
Right. But I will say what's cool about Flux is everyone hangs out and has like drinks after the screenings, which is like if you go to a creative screenwriting screening where you see a giant studio movie and see a Q&A with the writer of that movie for
there's
free.
Less of a scene afterwards.
Yeah, nobody really wants to talk to you after that screening. They just want to like talk to the one important person there.
Right.
So anyway, I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Also, I'm trying to convince my wife, who is an actress, that it's like good for her too.
Sure.
To go know directors and producers and other actors and things like that.
Yeah, I find that I have missed knowing actors recently. I feel like I used to have a lot of friends who were performing, and we've talked about this on the show. They've kind of all moved into different things,
Right. Well, it's weird because all your actor friends are like within the same like 5-year age range of you.
Right.
So now if you want to cast like an awesome 18-year-old, you just have to start from scratch.
Yeah. I was thinking about that actually. I was like, oh, I'm going to have to start this from scratch on, or they're too famous now. That's the other thing. It's like they just are on a sitcom or something. And so that's awesome. I want them to be on sitcoms and all of that. But
well, if you want to go to some shows to explore new talent, let me know. Yeah. I'll go with you.
Yeah, that would be fun.
As long as it's like around 10 a.m. on a weekday.
Perfect. Cool. Well, good catching up. We'll post all of that stuff. Let's hop into some listener questions. We've got Zach Dalton wrote in. He's a huge fan of the show. Thanks so much, Zach.
He's also a patron.
Also a patron. Yeah, thank you. We answer questions whether you're a patron or not, but it's always nice.
So Zach writes in a letter about how he has been working as a filmmaker and he got offered a job with a production company to direct what they call the passion project. Not a giant budget, but something that they were really excited to have him on. And as he started working on it, he basically they told him the job went away and no longer existed. flash forward to a little bit later, he's talking to someone about another director that he knows that's really great. And they're like, oh, yeah, that director is directing this orchestra project.
And he's like, wait, what?
Yeah, this is a project that he was told went away. And apparently he said he's heard this happening a lot. He has a DP friend that also had the same thing happen. He got this job, and then the job actually went away. And then he found out that like a bigger, in quotes, better DP had gotten the job. Right? So Zach is asking, and this has happened it's definitely happened to me. I don't know if it's happened to you.
Yeah, definitely.
But the idea that you get a job and then a company tells you the job no longer exists, and then you find out actually it does exist, but they basically lied to you because they felt bad that they took it away from you and replaced you with someone else.
Yeah. So he has two questions. He wants to know, how do you handle a relationship with a production company that treats people that way? Right? Do you trust them? Do you care about it? Is this normal? Right? And then two, is there a point in working with a production company at all on a passion project if he can self-finance and piece the crew together himself? Obviously, they have something to gain, or multiple companies wouldn't have asked him. Does he have anything to gain or lose by picking one of them to produce it?
Right.
So first off, let's start with number one. Is this normal? How should Zach feel about it?
Unfortunately, it is normal, and I think you're allowed to be upset by it.
It's totally okay and human to be bummed out when people that you like working with pick somebody else to make a thing that you wanted to make. Without a doubt, that sucks. And it feels even worse when you feel like you are taking a pay cut and like have decided to invest yourself emotionally, and that it's not just a job for the paycheck, but really like one because you believe in the project, right?
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah,
well, there's two parts, right?
Yeah.
One is that you lost the job to someone else, and two is that the company was not honest with you about why you lost the job. I have this very weird, probably somewhat rare policy in this town, which is like, I do not lie. Like, I don't ever lie to anyone.
Yeah. And
I
agree, actually. It's so stressful to lie, right?
Well, I just don't. I feel like I literally will be up all night if I lie to someone. I don't really lie to people.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It stresses you out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Not because I'll get caught, just because internally, I just feel uncomfortable about it.
Yeah.
So I would never in a million, if I hired a DP and then it turned out like Janusz Kaminski wants to shoot this thing, then I would call the person I hired and be like, hey, I'm really sorry, but
Janusz is coming in.
Yeah. I mean, I will exaggerate things. I'll be like, everyone at the production company is really excited about this. And I told them like, I'd still like to work with you on a future project, and they're on board with that, but for now we're going to go with this other person. I mean, I did that for Miss 2059, that I worked with a new DP because the lead actress wanted to use her friend to shoot things, even though I had like kind of talked to my DP friends about it beforehand.
Them a little bit.
And
So I think that I feel like it's kind of, we're really talking mostly about tact here, and that to a certain extent, like the production company should just be like, hey man, we're so sorry, things went another way. Like, there's code words that mean you didn't get the job. Sorry, but you don't have to lie and say, oh, that job doesn't exist anymore.
Right. That's the Matt Enlow move. I mean, it's a lot of people's moves. Like, yeah, we went in a different direction with this.
Yeah, that means you didn't get the job. We're still working on it.
Right.
And like, that's a nice way of saying it. It sucks for sure. But I think that maybe part of it is just tact. The difference is, though, whether or not you're putting in time and resources. If they've contracted you to make a thing, you think you have the job, you're like shooting tests and like scouting and things like that, then you're sinking actual work and time into it. That's a different deal for sure. And much less scrupulous. Like that's kind of a problem.
Yeah, I guess if it's someone you've worked on a bunch of projects with, like I had recently a project with Sawhorse that, we started laying out the groundwork, and then the talent wanted a different director last minute, wanted their own friend. And it's not like I got compensated for the work I did, but I know that
you also understand how that happens too.
Yeah. And I work with them a lot, and I'm not going to be not going to jeopardize my relationship with them because of that.
Well, and also that's not their call.
Right.
That's the other thing. And frankly, when you're in a situation, for instance, where like you're trying to pick a DP, right? Because we're in that same sort of situation that production companies are in, where you're making specific, decisions about who you're trying to hire. And sometimes that does get personal. You have two DPs that you love shooting with all the time. Sometimes it's nice for it to not be 100% your decision.
Right.
It's nice to be like, hey, I sent these along to the agency, for instance, and I made a good case for why I like both of you, and we'll see what happens. And that's nice to be able to say, agency went a different way, and here's why, right?
Right.
But that's different than
A flat out lie.
Yeah. Well, and that being their decision. Like if you everyone's been railroaded before, so like that happens and it sucks. But
well, I think if Zach put himself in their shoes, like let's say you're casting something and you have some actor friends and you tell them about this project you have coming up, and you're like, oh, you would probably be great for this role, to like an actress friend of yours, and then you're doing auditions and you see someone that's just like amazing, like the perfect, they have the perfect background, the perfect look, the perfect everything for this role. They really bring this character alive, and you have to go tell your actress friend that you told you wanted to cast her that you can no longer cast her. It's not because she's not good, and it's not because you're a jerk. It's because, unfortunately, in this business, there might always be someone that's like a little bit better for the job, and it's part of the bummer of this business.
And I think that we probably both in our younger years maybe would have promised performers or DPs the job before you were really capable of locking it in, and I think it's just about being honest and being like, hey, listen, we're auditioning a lot of people, I really hope that it works out.
Right.
It's different than you've got the role. I wrote this for you.
Right.
I
tell people, like actor friends and stuff, that they're always in mind. Like I always, and it's true when I see a list of roles.
You always want your friends to get cast for sure.
Yeah. So I think I tend to confront people on that. Not like I don't call them up and be like, you lied to me, but if I see them again, I'll be like, hey, I heard that orchestra thing came back. I'll kind of give them an out, like a way to explain themselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's jerky. That said, if they give you a lot of work, just roll with it. The hardest thing to do in that situation is to like be confident and charismatic and pretend that you have so many other things going on that isn't a big deal, like, because that's who people want to hire. People want to hire people that have a lot of stuff going on.
If you're like, oh God, this thing that I wasn't really going to get paid for, I really wanted to do. Yeah, that's a little rougher.
Or if you go and you're like, that's the only thing I had last month. No.
Yeah. Like, all right, well, yeah. So number 2, do you think working with this production company is worth it? Basically, like if you can self-finance and piece together a crew himself, should he bother? And I think the answer is tricky because we keep using the word passion project, and I think there's kind of a sliding scale on how passionate you are about this project. There's a huge difference between I wrote this thing myself and I really wanted to get into Sundance, and this is my baby, and it's about my parents and my relationship to them or whatever, right? That's like a pure passion project. And then there's like, oh, this would be really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome Nike commercial spec.
Yeah. There's been plenty of commercials that I have been passionate about and really excited to work on. Most of them, I'd hope, but I wouldn't.
They're not personal.
Right, exactly. And so I think that we should all be so lucky to get budgets from other companies to make things that you're excited about making. That's the goal. That's the dream. If it's something that you think is so important to you that you can self-finance it, then yeah. But I don't know that I would classify this one as one that's that important to you, Zach.
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, I would say, look, if you need the money is nice. If you don't need the money, if you need the support, if you need like producers or other people, equipment, locations that they can provide.
Contacts in general.
Yeah, go for it. I always think on any project, the more people involved, the better chance it has of actually being made.
And good,
Right. But that said, this is a very boring topic, but there is like the idea of ownership and equity. And like if you are making a short that you want to develop into a TV show or something, and you team up with this production company, now they own half the idea. It might.
You have to have those. You have to be okay with those terms in every capacity. Yeah.
Yeah. Like our friend now is like kind of managing these stages in Glendale, and he's like, hey, you can use these stages for free to shoot proof of concept stuff, but we have to be attached as producers if you take it out, or EPs or something. So it's like interesting, but like for a stage, I don't know that I want to give up like producer credit.
Yeah, exactly.
Like something you can rent for a couple of grand.
Scrounge together the cash.
Yeah. So anyway, good luck, Zach. Thanks for writing. Thanks for patronizing us.
If you have questions for us, we promise we'll get to all of them eventually. You can drop us a line at justshootitpod@gmail.com or our voicemail 2626-SHOOT1. Shall we hop into unpaid endorsements?
Sure.
Unpaid endorsements. So I've got a pair of endorsements. One is an interview on Deadline with Steven Soderbergh. It's the 30th anniversary of Sex, Lies, and Videotape, which was kind of the movie that put Sundance on the map in a more meaningful way. You know, it was kind of like the dawn of independent cinema in America in what we now think of it as. Not to discredit all the other movies that came before that, of which there were many, many, many. But Sex, Lies, and Videotape was like a big landmark for indie American cinema. And so the conversation is really incredible. He's got a new Netflix show coming out. He retired. He came back out of retirement. He did the Nick. He's like, you know, doing all sorts of crazy experiments with day and date releases and like, you know, small releases, bigger releases, with studios, without studios, at Netflix. And he kind of really talks in depth about his process of just kind of how he figures out how he likes to release a movie. You know, he's in a privileged position where his name means something, so he gets to kind of pick and choose. But it's a really fascinating read, and I think a nice thing to check out when you're feeling inundated with, like, the sky is falling, independent cinema is dead sort of literature, which I feel like we've probably seen a lot of recently.
Yeah, I might have even been saying things like that myself recently.
Yeah, so it's nice to like read Soderbergh and be like, oh, you just have to figure it out. It's like a different thing each time, and it was the first time around for him as well. Yeah, so that's my endorsement, actually.
Cool. What's the deal with this umbrella that you have by your door?
So that's my wife's umbrella. It turns inside out when you fold it, so it dumps all of the water out, basically, and so the dry side is on the outside when you collapse it, basically.
Oh, that's smart. So you're not holding a wet umbrella.
Exactly.
And also, is it not easier to get into your car with that?
It is easier to get into your car with that. Yeah,
because it folds in the opposite direction.
Correct. Yeah.
I want to get one of those.
Yeah, they're pretty.
It's been
nice.
raining in LA a lot.
Yeah, by the time it gets here, you'll
Yeah, it'll never rain again.
Yeah.
Well, one kind of handy tip. I might have mentioned something along this before, but you know those Echo Dots? They're like dirt cheap. You can get one for like $20.
Yeah.
If you have kids, we have one in our daughter's room. And yes, maybe Amazon is spying on us. We don't care.
Sure.
But you can ask it to play lullabies or any like kids music, which is awesome. I imagine a lot of parents like have music or sound machines or something for their like little kids. But what's awesome about the Dot is like you can just have it basically be playing lullabies forever. And then before you go to bed, you can just from your phone turn off the music.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so it's like, and you don't have to go into their room or anything and risk waking them up. So it's a cool move.
Cool. Yeah, good move. Well, thanks, Oren. Good to catch up, buddy. If you want to learn more about the show, you can visit us at justshootitpod.com or on all the socials at justshootitpod. You can follow me at Mr. Matt Enlow.
You can follow me at Smitey Pyleg or on Instagram at OKaplan. And this episode was produced by Madeline Rosevot. It was edited by Jay McCullough, and our webmaster is Ewan Williams. And the music you're listening to is from the artist Jahzzar and the Free Music Archive. And write us an iTunes review. We will read it on the podcast.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.